Django. I grew up in a small town, but always felt the universe pushing me to do something monumental. In 2010, I was working at the drive-thru of McDonald's for $7.25 an hour. Fast forward to today, and I'm the co-founder of a multi-million-dollar technology agency. This is the Django Show, where I interview founders of successful companies and expose the how-tos of becoming a successful entrepreneur. What up, what up? It's your boy Django, host of the Django Show. It is episode 1.2, and I would like to do my shows a little bit different than most because I think it would be great to sometimes expand on some of what we talked about in the past episode. And we had Grant on. He's one of my best friends, my co-founder. I love him to death. And I think he really touched on something that I realized opened up my eyes to a piece to my life that I had not realized had kind of come to fruition. And it really is around this idea of manifestation. And what I realized for me personally is that through my life, especially at the beginning of this process of entrepreneurship, I worked really hard to follow the steps that I read in Think and Grow Rich. If you aren't familiar with the book, it's by Napoleon Hill. It's one of the most incredible books. It changed my life massively, but I followed that book to a T when I first got started on my journey. And one of the things that they talk about is the power of manifestation. And it's a 6-step process that honestly, I think helps connect your conscious and your subconscious in a way that we oftentimes overlook. And I know at a personal level, I've heavily overlooked in the past 6 months to a year. And so he lays out a very specific process to work through manifesting what it is that you want most in this life. And I think one of the things that we've maybe overlooked as a society when it comes to manifesting, and I don't think people do this on purpose, but this is just from my own view because of what I've realized has happened in my life, is that I had this theory that if I just said, I want to manifest all these things, that all these things would happen, that I would get the money, that I would have the best relationship possible, that I would have this, that I would have that, and that I'd have this. And it's like 6 or 7 things that I was like, I'm manifesting this into my life. But I skipped over what I was willing to sacrifice to have that. I skipped over what I knew for sure was what I wanted most. And I skipped over actually writing down the process. So I want to talk to you real quick about the 6 steps that he talks about. And I think if you do not own this book, it is a must read. I think after you finish that, you have to read Greg Reed's 3 Feet from Gold. It's an absolutely incredible book as well. But you need to understand to some extent this idea of manifestation, because I think we say the word, but we don't necessarily take the time to follow the direction that could help us truly manifest what we want most in life. And so I actually pulled up some notes that I took a while back because I wrote it down indefinite and I hadn't actually looked at this for over a year. And so for me, when I first quit my job, to give you guys an understanding, before it, I had kind of followed the principle to a T. So step 1 is to fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. It is not sufficient merely to say, I want plenty of money. Be definite as to the amount. And I remember when me and Grant were working together kind of for the first time, as I was thinking about quitting my job and taking on the work we were going to do together full time, he literally asked me, what is the amount of money you need to get away from your job? And I wrote out exactly how much money it was that I needed. And I knew the exact number. I still remember that exact number I needed to make. And I wrote out that I wanted to be able to quit my job in 2 months. Now, the crazy thing is that I ended up quitting my job 2 weeks later because we made that amount of money. And I do think that part of the reason that happened was because of how definite I was in this process. And so I remember writing down exactly what it was, the amount of money that I wanted to make. And the second step is to determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire. There is no such thing as something for nothing. I feel like I hear people, and I talk to people about manifesting all the time. We always talk about what it is we're manifesting in our life, the relationships, the work, the money, the trips, whatever it is that you want most, cars. And I almost feel like it's almost like an Instagram culture to talk about the things that we want to get, how we want to get it, but not necessarily the exact thing that you're willing to give. And I think the tough part about it, and you could probably see this with a lot of people who have success, is they will work so hard to have certain things, but they won't realize that they're actually sacrificing some of the things that they love the most, and maybe they weren't even really willing to give. And it hurts. I know that that's happened to me in the last 6 months as I've manifested some of the things I wanted. Because I was not definite in what I was willing to sacrifice, I sacrificed without knowing. And so the third step after you've determined what you're willing to sacrifice is to actually establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. And again, I say money because that's what they say in the book, but this can be used in any context. What is it you want to manifest most? Is it a relationship? Is it quitting your job? I mean, whatever these things are that you want, if you really can truly define what it is that you want and define what it is you're willing to sacrifice, oftentimes now you can begin on this process of saying, like, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is how I'm going to do it. And you can really put those things together. And I know in the last year, really, I have not set definite dates of when the success was going to come together. And a lot of things have been delayed and a lot of mistakes have been made by me, even as I've had success, because I wasn't willing to slow down and ask myself, when am I going to get this done? The fourth step is to create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not to put this plan into action. And I feel like, and this is just at a personal level, even beyond entrepreneurship, when I hear people talk about manifesting relationships, and I know I've made a lot of the same mistakes, we're just like, it's just going to happen. I'm going to find the one. It's just going to come together. I can just feel it. And I don't really know how anything can truly just come together without a very intense focus on how you're actually going to bring this thing about. I did the same thing. I've made the same mistakes in money recently. I've made the same mistakes in my relationships. I've made mistakes across the board because I've not been properly defining not only what I'm willing to sacrifice, not only what it is that I am going to do and what that time frame is, but what is the plan to do this? Sometimes I jump the gun and I'm just going for action, and I haven't truly written out exactly what it is that we're going to do. That doesn't mean that the plans aren't going to change. But it does mean at least we know where we're starting from. We know the structure. We know when we reach this point, these are the questions that I'm going to ask myself. These are the things I'm going to do. And when you have really actually defined that plan, the last step, and the thing that even at times where I've kind of done these things, I have not written out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money I intended to acquire, name the time limit for its acquisition, state what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan through which you would intend to accumulate it. And after you've written that, the last step is reading your written statement aloud twice daily, once just before retiring at night, and once after arising in the morning, as you read, see, and feel and believe yourself already in possession. I know consciously that there are things that I've wanted to do with my life and things that I've wanted to put together and things that I've wanted to pull and be great with. But oftentimes I am afraid to write things down because the moment that you actually start moving in the direction of what it is that you're stating you want the most, what you're willing to sacrifice, what you're willing to do, what the plan is, what the time frame is, you have now set the standard for failure. Because if you do not follow through on this plan, you have failed yourself. And the crazy thing is if you don't do that, it's worse because you fail over time. And you don't always know how you're failing or what is failing or what you're sacrificing or what you're losing out on or what you're gaining or what you're even going for because you're just wanting everything. And I know at a personal level, I have wanted way too many things that are contradictory to each other. And that leaves me in this weird middle ground of am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? I'm working on this and I'm working on that and I'm doing this and I'm doing, it's just this back and forth, and you end up never really moving in any direction, not defining any type of failure until one day you wake up and you realize I haven't done any of what I wanted to do. And I can live with failure, but I can't live with failing and not even realizing that I was just stumbling around into nowhere. All I had to do was define the success, define the trip as to where I was going. And then if I made it, if I didn't make it, if the plans changed, whatever, at least I know where I'm going. And the hardest part to me about the manifesting is when I tried to manifest everything, when I didn't clearly define what I wanted the most. Subconsciously, I went after the thing that I wanted the most. And sometimes consciously, it wasn't really what I should have been going for. By not defining, I kind of let myself be adrift, and I've ended up just not happy with life. I am so excited for every part of my life. I look back and I don't have any regrets for what I've done because it's helped me become the type of person that I am. But what I will say is that if you are thinking about building something in your life, thinking about stepping into the entrepreneurial journey, maybe you're 10 years into it, 20 years into it. If you do not have on a piece of paper what it is that you want most clearly defined, if you have not defined what it is you're willing to give and what you're not willing to give, whether that's family, whether that's your relationships, whether that's money, whether that's your time, then you will end up sacrificing something, and it may not be what you want to sacrifice. You have to define things, and you have to remind yourself what it is you want most. Because if you're waking up and kind of rocking and doing this and doing that, you can get to the end of the day and have done nothing towards what your goals are. And so as you are working through this process of manifestation, whether it's about relationships or money or goals or giving back or whatever. I mean, for me personally, the biggest thing that I want most in my life is to build this city for orphans and foster kids. And I keep trying to work towards it each day. And I have defined what the steps are of success, of what I need to do over the next 5 years to do that. I have not defined what I'm willing to sacrifice. I had not defined what it is that is the process by which I will also be accumulating each of those steps. And that's on me at the end of the day. I have to be the captain of my own soul. I have to be making sure that I'm staying on top of things, no matter how much success I have. And at times I need to look back at the plan and see if we're still headed in the right direction, because at the end of the day, even now, as I've had some of this success, I realize I'm not exactly where I want to be. So defining this compass, setting the goal, where you're going to go, and each individual step, each road I'm going to turn on, what I'm going to do. Oh, now there's a detour. Well, now we can take some new steps in, but we're getting back on the road as soon as possible. That is the power of manifestation. And if you find that you're not actually getting all of the things that you want in life, it may not be your own fault, but a great place to start is this process. And so if you have not read Think and Grow Rich, I know it sounds like it's just about money, but honestly, it is a book about personal development. It is a book about really, truly defining for this life, the only life that you get, what it is that matters most to you, what it is that you are going to do to get it, what you are going to sacrifice, and setting up the tools so that you can not only define success for yourself, but failure, so that you can move forward and be willing to sacrifice and get the things done that you need to get done. I hope that I can continue to do episodes like this. I really enjoy kind of talking about things from my own life, because at the end of the day, I think that speaking from experience instead of trying to speak about things theoretically, at least for me, it's what's helped me most. People telling me about the mistakes they've made, people telling me about the things that they wish they had done different, people telling me about how I can grow and be a better person. And I hope that this podcast, the Django Show, can do the same for you, as we have on more guests who talk about their journey and their successes and their failures and just how tough this process can be. This, I think, is a foundation that can support you for the rest of your life, no matter what it is that you're focused on, even if it's not just about entrepreneurship. Manifesting what it is you want most in life, clearly defining that process. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about this format of the show. The next episode, we're going to be having on another guest. I can't wait to put everybody on, let them know who we're going to have. But for now, today's episode is 1.2 of the Django Show. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Django, and I look forward to reconnecting with you guys in the future. Have a wonderful day.